So I was turning to you about. Hey! I was about to say, I was just
talking to you about bike.
Superbikes, and our next guest is possibly going to have a Superbike look and feel to him. And guess what?
He comes in with a bike jacket on, Speed Demon shirt. There we go. Where's the helmet?
Helmet's there as well.
Oh, there's a helmet.
Got his coffee on his way.
You can put the lid up here.
So lucky. Oh, that's nice. Eh? What do you ride again? Oh, yeah, you're on Ducati. You haven't learnt the Suzuki way.
The Italian stadium.
Definitely not.
Hasn't learnt the way of life yet. That's the
You mean the other bikes?
Mick Landie, buddy. So good to have you in our studio, bud. What's happening? All good.
We're good. We're fighting the good fight. And as you heard, we now have national status.
Well, you say that as he heard. I didn't. The last I heard from Greg was that there was no national Superbike Championship. That was the last I heard from Greg on the live stream. So to have someone here saying we now have national status is amazing.
It got granted last week Friday, so fresh off the press.
And literally 2 days ago, first round. That's how crazy it is.
That's how crazy it's been.
No, it wasn't 2 days ago. It's going to be
when this goes out.
Thursday, Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, Sunday. 6 days ago, first round.
When this goes out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when this goes out, are we 6 days into the first round happening and done and dusted? It looks like it was not a bad outing for your first round as well. I know initially MRSSA, as you guys were, have had some good fields, and you've gone the SAES route because that was where opportunity arose. So I think just from a historical point of view, Mick, just run us through. I know a lot of people won't know who Mick is. I've been involved with him for a while, chatting about him, talking about his escapades in Battle of the Twins, and when Super GP was still around, he was one of the riders there too. But from a motorcycling point of view, Mick, just a little bit of history about yourself, where you've come from, and we'll get into the championship in a few moments.
Sure. So for me, I only started racing much later in life because my dad was dead against me ever having a bike. So I only got into racing in about 2007 or so. Mm-hmm. Straight into bots. I've only ever ridden Ducati. hence are there any other bikes? on a 999, going into a bots field that used to be bots is Battle of the Twins, for those who don't
Thanks.
know.
I thought I was thinking Botswana. So
Botswana,
thank you.
yeah.
All right. Okay.
Battle of the Twins, because obviously Ducati used to make V twins. And to going into a class that was 38 to 40 strong of just twins. So it was it was hair raising at the time. So and I've continued in bots to this day. We had I think pretty much the last bots championship last year because motorbike racing is not in a great way. The numbers are dwindling, and it's trying to get everybody back and build up the hype and get everybody back into it.
There's a lot of people that have been trying to do that for a while. And from a historical point of view, remember in the sort of late 80s into the 90s and then even into the 2000s and into 2010s, we had a very successful and strong Superbike championship that kind of carried its weight all the way through. From what was originally just national days that turned into Vodacom Power Tour days, that turned into West Bank Super Series days, that turned into Monster Energy Super GP days, which were bike alone championship events. The success of motorcycle racing, of course, is testament to what we've sent overseas and what we currently see in Brad and what we've seen in Darren and Matthew and Cam Peterson and all the other youngsters that are involved. And there's a whole bunch of them that have come through that route. But Mick, from a championship point of view, unfortunately, about 5 years ago, it just took a nosedive of note. And I think it was also a case of there was I hate saying this, there was a COVID aspect to it for sure.
Most definitely.
But it certainly wasn't the be all and end all.
It's most certainly not the be all and end all, but look, economics definitely play a role in all of this too. And it does boil down to disposable income. As you know, racing bikes or racing cars, it's not
or racing anything.
Or racing anything is not a cheap exercise. We currently sitting. The example is we like to use Pirelli tires. A set of Pirellis now is close to 10 grand for a set of tires, and you need more than one set for the weekend. So, there's economics to this, and that's played a part. Sure, there have been other factors along the way that have also not helped, but be that as it may, we needed it to die down, and I think now we can get it back on its feet.
So
and
do you,
try and revive it?
you know, every form of motorsport has gone through the same sort of up and down over that period. We saw it in karting, we saw it in main circuit, we saw it, numbers dwindled, numbers came back. Numbers are starting to come back now, even more so. Even when he knocks over things. I'm having a good go at things.
You're having a good guy.
But why do you think motorcycle racing in this country took as much of a knock as it did in comparison to the other forms of motorsport? I mean, I know it's a difficult
I
think
it's a difficult one, but you know, running MRSSA, which is the club in which we've promoted it, and that developed after we used to do regional racing when that died down, as to who wanted to promote it, who wanted to keep going. You know, in terms of the historical data, every year the numbers dropped by you know, a good 10 to 20%, and it's economics, because the bikes become more expensive.
Yeah.
You know, I can only talk about Ducati because that's what I ride. A standard V4S off the showroom floor today is almost 600,000 Rand.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not a cheap exercise. I think if you buy a new Yamaha, it's pretty close. The BM's pretty, you know, they're all there or thereabouts.
They're all in sort of the
half a million, all in the five.
Yeah, half a million
rand
ish.
Ish.
But you're buying a road bike then, and then obviously having to convert it to get it race ready.
Sure.
So the cost then obviously exponential. But
Correct.
I've seen more and more motorcycles on the road lately. Is that not then assisting you or moving towards why the motorcycle racing is growing again, as there's more and more?
Well, you'd like to think they're selling more bikes and they're more road riders, but you know, the reality is there are those who don't want to make that little shift and put it on a racetrack and put themselves.
But there was opportunity for that. I mean, if you think about particularly on Swartkorps's point of view, they had a sort of a startup class where they took what was happening on a Sunday, where the breakfast run guys would come there and spend the day there doing a breakfast run around Swartkorps. That turned into a breakfast run class. The faster guys got faster and faster, as they always do in any form of motorsport. And then, of course, they had to then say, okay, well, you guys are too fast. We need another class for you. And then Thunderbikes was born. Thunderbikes then turned into a sort of a national challenge class for a while, and that kind of petered out as well. And then, of course, what happened with 600s and 1000s, where we had the numbers and the top riders. And we speak about top riders, we're talking about world-class riders here. We're talking about guys who don't know how to get onto a motorcycle. And in saying and hearing what you said there, Mick, it is a case of, yes, in those days you could buy a 1000cc for just over 100,000 Rand. Now you're looking at 500,000 Rand. Of course, that's a whole other ball game. But what I love what your thinking is that you've now said, okay, if you want that HP4, or if you want the V4, or you want the GSXR, or you want the ZX10, or you want whatever it is you want, you can bring it. And having a look at the rules that Sydney sent me, it's literally the national class is an open class now, which a lot of guys in the heyday of South African Superbike Championship were asking for. They were saying, this is the epitome of their sport. Why are you regulating me with what tire I'm allowed to use, what electronics I'm allowed to use, what I can put on as an aftermarket pipe, what I can put on as aftermarket goodies? I mean, it's the same as what MotoGP have done. They have just got to, I would say, the crescendo of what MotoGP is in terms of the rules that are currently in place. And they're about to just take that and go, no, we're going this way now. Sure. 2027's rule change.
Sure.
So if you are the F1 of motorcycling, which is what we would hope South African Superbike Championship has to be, in those days they weren't allowed to. You guys have now opened it up and said, bring it.
Look, we absolutely have, because the reality is we're not spoiled for numbers. So now why do we need to revive it? Because South Africa most certainly needs a national motorcycle series, which it now has. So why would we want to limit it? Let's, as they say, build it and they will come. Because the thinking behind it is, let's not restrict them yet. Sure, if we're sitting with a grid with 40 and 50 competitors who are all competing in the national series, then we can delve into the rules and start all sorts of...
How many of these do we have and how many of those do we have?
Correct.
Fair.
But we're not spoiled for numbers currently, and hence the thinking we had around the motors, opening them up. Absolutely. pretty much you can enter anything into the national class as the rules currently sit. There are no limitations, not for tire, not for ECU, not for harnesses, not for brake, suspension, whatever. There are no current limitations at this point.
So, okay, so I have no knowledge when it comes to superbike racing. I only have my 4 wheels, and that's because my father just would not let me get on a bike.
Sure.
You two come from a similar family.
We did.
So he put me in a kart instead. And there, the rest is history. I drove a kart from the age of 5, and I've only been involved in motorsport since then. But I've always loved a superbike. I've always loved watching the superbikes. I remember watching the 3 Nashville bikes kick around the circuit. It's something that I've always grown up, and it was always with cars on the same day. So you were always experiencing and always seeing it. But when you say, because I don't have that understanding, when you say open rules, there has to be some sort of restriction at some point.
No, look, okay. So we
Because
say,
it's like
no, of course, I hear you. So in terms of rules, there's still, it's not that there are no rules, come do what you like. That's not the
come do
case.
400 k's an hour on the straight.
No, not at all. So there are limitations in terms of you're not allowed to use specific gas. You can't turbocharge the bike. You can't do silly things like that. So what we're basically saying is we're encouraging everybody they could literally, because there are guys who have bikes in garages that they're not riding, that are just sitting there collecting dust, that are in race trim, and maybe they go to a Red Star or a SWAT Corps on a Wednesday or once every other month or whatever they might do. So now they don't need to, oh no, you can only run this suspension. No, you have to have these kind of brakes. You're only allowed to use this kind of tire.
So to spend 150 grand on the bike you already have to come join the series. Avoid doing that. Come race with us.
Absolutely, 100%.
So a restriction of CC, you're saying 1,000 CC bikes as long as it's 1,000, or
no? We've had to make it a little more because the Ducati V4, if it's an S version, it's obviously over 1,000 cc, and it's only the R version that they're currently racing now in World Superbikes that is 1,000 cc. So an S wouldn't be allowed in the World Superbike class because
it's also sort of vain. It's one of the reasons I decided to wear this T-shirt for today is they had to do that TT as well because the 600 class unfortunately started to dwindle, the Supersport class, because you only had 3 manufacturers that were supplying motorcycles. But there were other bikes that were available that could fit in, but you had to just modify them slightly. So, for instance, when they brought the Ducati in that Michael won on last year, they had to restrict that bike slightly to allow him to race the Ducati in the 600 class, in the Supersport class. And it's to the point that some of them are even restricted to the amount of roll on the throttle. So there's a stopper on the throttle that you can only go to X amount on the throttle to allow it to then be as competitive. So running for instance, and I want to use the example, I could run a 750 Suzuki. It's one of the only 750 that's still in manufacture, but I can run a 750 Suzuki in the Supersport class, but I have to have those restrictors on to allow me to run it. So I think that's kind of might clear up a little bit in terms of your understanding is that there's limitations to the class in terms of CC capacity. There's limitations even in the 600 class, if I'm not mistaken, Mick?
Yeah, currently, we're currently sitting with 5 600 riders. So again, we're not spoiled for numbers. So there's a bit of disparity currently because we have a KTM that's in the class.
Yeah.
And its CCs are slightly higher than a standard R6 and what the other guys have. But, as I keep saying, build it, they will come. Let's get the numbers back.
You can always see that,
and then we can tweak it and fix it as we go along. Absolutely.
As the KTM runs away, you go, hang on, that's a little bit too quick. 100%. Weight balance, maybe a restrictor here or
And the example that I said is maybe not in the Supersport class as much as what there was in the Super Stock class and also in the Twin class, because in the Twin class, there's been a sort of a dominant factor in the twin class in TT as well, but it has happened in other championships around the world too. And they've had to play around with allowing the manufacturers who want to be involved. And I think that's also what you're looking to do. Manufacturer backing, Kawasaki have been behind ZX-10s for 20 odd years. All of a sudden they pulled out and ZX-10 took a little bit of a knock because the manufacturer backing wasn't there. We had an official Ducati, Honda, Suzuki, and Yamaha team in Super GP. But now, manufacturer-wise, I think there's only backing that's coming from Ducati and there's backing that's coming from Yamaha. Suzuki are no longer giving any backing to any of the guys. There might be some dealer team guys out there. I'm not quite sure anymore because I haven't seen the fields. But with what you've done, it now opens that door again.
Correct.
And then the dealers go, oh, hold on a second. Here's an opportunity. I can get 2 GSXRs or 2 ZX10s or 2 Fireblades on. And that's what we've seen even at top level, MotoGP. Honda took a massive dive. They were nowhere. But last year, all of a sudden you had,
great comeback.
Hang on a second, there's Luca Marini coming in he's top 3. And now you've got Diego Mola, whatever his name is.
And all of a sudden the budget and the finances
and the manufacturers are going,
okay, there's an opportunity. We can do something. Sure.
And I think that's also what is a huge bonus is that they're not just fighting for a club championship anymore. It's now national club.
Correct.
There's going to be an SA number 1 this year.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That I think was my favorite thing of seeing that post.
That's the bottom line.
We've gotten into a lot of nitty gritty, but you're racing with SAES. The series is called, because I haven't heard that yet.
So the new championship. The new championship still runs under MRSSA.
MRSSA, okay.
Yes, but
you're the promoters.
We're the promoters of the bikes, but we've obviously joined the SAES, which is the South African Endurance Series. And that's just, again, dwindling numbers. Circuits aren't shy to charge for a race, for when we want to race it. You know how this goes. So hence we joined the series. We did our first year was last year with SAES. I tell you, have to take my hat off to them. They run an outstanding event. They really do. It's live streamed on YouTube from start to finish. They really, really do it exceptionally well. We don't really have another choice because, you mentioned the ZX10. We can't go to Extreme Festival, too many categories, not enough time in the day. They're all those kind of restrictions. So
the door was open basically at SAES and you stepped in and said,
100%.
We're here, we're going to bring some bikes.
Circuit rentals brought down because obviously they paid in the circuit rental anyway, so you just a portion of that. So it creates your running costs to be
correct, absolutely
a lot less and allow you to grow as a series.
So we said there's an SA number 1, so that's the 1000cc class. But you've got actually 3 new classes that you've brought into the championship.
Correct.
So maybe just run us through those.
Sure. So what we've been allowed to do for this year is the 1000 as the national class. The 600 class, they don't want to give us national status just yet. They want to keep it as a national challenge on the proviso that we can get the numbers up and maintain the numbers for this year.
Yeah.
And if we do that, then there's no reason why the 600cc won't be a national series next year. And then obviously for our feeder, because, we need the youngsters. They're really not coming through at the moment, but there's a sub 500 class. So they're running around on 400cc motorcycles. Again, numbers are not great, but
build it and they will come.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think what you'll find is that the guys that were running what was track days or even Thunderbike and brunch run class days, there were youngsters that were there running 390s, running 250s, those kind of bikes that were up there. They can come into that sub 500 class now and have a jaw. I mean, we always speak about having fun more than you do anything in motorsport. Is the first thing you do is have fun. Then the rest falls into place. So if those guys are there, and 9 times out of 10, and please take this the right way as well, Nick, guys of our age, you've got your youngsters with you. So they're coming along to the track day anyway. So you might put your son or your daughter onto another bike and they're having fun while you're doing it. You might be racing on the day, but they may just be doing a track day on the original format that you ran. And the same thing applies on the Thunderbikes and brunch run days. Those ran on track days that were sponsored by Zambezi Honda. They would have their clients there. They would have guys A, B, and C, D class. And then in between, you'd have 2 races. The guys that were there kind of saw this and went, hey, hang on a second, I'm doing the same time as that guy. Maybe I should.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
That's the idea. And that's where the box gets ticked.
So we've pretty much catered to cover all the categories from the 1000 to the 400. At this point, we can't do much more than that.
From a success rate, your first one was last weekend. So
first one.
Do we look good?
We it's where I expected it to be. We had, I think, 25 entries in total. Not fantastic. Not to what we used to. I mean, we're going back to days when we had over 200 competitors on a race day.
Yeah.
So we know we're near, but it's a start. It's most certainly a start.
We're certainly grateful that they're on track. Then, plans for the future. I mean, you've gone the MSA route. The reason for that, of course, self-explanatory. If anybody wants to go international, they want to continue their careers.
Have to.
FIM is the affiliated body.
The only
is MSA.
way through, 100%.
Are they working hand in hand with you in terms of growing this as well?
MSA, as you know, they're just the body. They don't do much else other than worry about the rules and regulations, and we pay license fees to them. It's what I expect. I can't say I expect anything else from them.
Okay. That's a very this is the conversation. Whenever we mention those three letters, this is the response we get, and it's. As an ASN and as a governing body, that is what they're there to do. They're there to govern.
Absolutely.
So you submit your rules to them, they're doing what
they're supposed to do.
And that seems to be the end of the conversation. We bring them up. That's kind of where it stops. Yeah.
So, but also, that also gives, and it's the reason I asked that question, it also gives you and your committee the ability to sort of
self-govern
and progress the sport the way you'd like it to. You might have to go back and say, okay, can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this? And that just puts an amendment into the rule or an addendum. I think that way could potentially grow this into something that we were used to in the 90s and the 80s, 90s and 2000s. We know.
We absolutely believe it will because, as I said, we haven't had a national series for a good couple of years now. And I don't know why we don't have one. And if we're not going to do it, I don't see anybody else stepping up to the plate. We're doing it.
You've had some great backing from some of the media houses involved. I know originally when you started out, Motor Rider World was kind of backing you guys. They're backing a lot of the smaller riders on the short circuit racing now as well with Sean and Rob. But there's a whole new generation of social media influencers. You had Temba involved. Temba's one of the commentators there. He's got quite a big following. He also had a deal with Ducati at one point in time. I'm not quite sure if it's still up and running because I haven't spoken to him for a while. But therein lies, first of all, the development on the media side so that you're getting the bang for your buck. Potentially in with a chance of looking at new sponsors getting involved. I'm sure you are.
Sure. There's some things in the pipeline. Don't want to give too much away in terms of what because nothing's signed and sealed yet. No, I can't just yet. So, because tires being, I'll just mention in the broader sense.
Yeah.
Tires is obviously a huge expense to the bike. So we are working on something like that. And specifically one of the manufacturers, we're working on something specific. Let's hope, unfortunately, it's like trying to put the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
We couldn't actually do the deal until we got the national status. And as I said, last week, Friday, that's when we got it. So, we'll catch up.
I think also, that's also the cart before the horse comment there just shows you that you've got to have a winning combination before you can go and approach it. And it's on a similar vein to what you're doing here. Whatever people think about this, after 10 episodes, we can go, we're in the right direction, or no, we pull the plug.
Sure.
So it's very early days for you. But I think there's certainly a huge opportunity that's been opened up from what you've done so far.
There's huge potential.
And potential is there as well.
There is huge potential.
With that comes the negotiation process with those sponsors that bring the tires, that bring the fuel, that bring a naming rights sponsor in, possibly. And, of course, in mentioning those social media influencers and the media guys that are behind you, the backing of those guys and girls that are behind the scenes, giving you the additional information, putting out those posts, telling people about what the series is about, liking and sharing what you've done, liking and sharing what we've done. We've done the same. As soon as we got that post, we put it up onto our page so that people can say.
Sure.
And it was one of the reasons, I'm going to say credit for it, Chabri, because you didn't have a freaking clue. I said in episode 3, there's no South African Superbike Championship. And ta-da!
Well, I'm going to say, we couldn't have done it without you. That's all I'm going to say. Couldn't have done it without you.
Without us. Curse in the house, baby. No, we weren't. But it was something that we were concerned about. And me particularly, my affiliation and the love of the two-wheel side of the sport that I have more than anything else, and take nothing away from what I've done on the four-wheel side. Motorsport is my life, but two wheels moves the soul, baby. That's all I'm saying. Four wheels moves the body.
We've been concerned since it ended.
Exactly. Sure. And there's been some serious work, and it's not only from your side. There's a group of guys that have got together and said, how do we fix this? And that's also part of what we bring. We brought the problem to light. You didn't know about it. We didn't know what you were up to behind the scenes. The problem was brought to light on Commentators Curse. We raised it. We have discussed it between ourselves and between a couple of other guests that we've had. And we've now got you here. And you've brought the solution. So we've come full circle on what we want to try and do on the show.
Sure.
Hats off. Well done.
Thank you.
Brilliant job. And thank you for bringing this South African.
Wasn't just me. I'm just
You're the spokesperson, and that's why I mentioned your team. You have a big team behind you.
Sure.
And that team are all big motorcycle enthusiasts.
Absolutely.
Can you ask for any better team to have?
You really can't. No.
To have those.
It's
kind
the
of
only
guys.
team to have.
Exactly.
Because otherwise it gets difficult.
And you mentioned it. Our last guest said, passion for the sport.
Yeah, passion for the sport over passion for the money. Yeah,
there it is.
That's the only thing that's going to grow motorsport in South Africa at the moment. Is we need to remove the passion for the money and focus on the passion for the sport. Yes, we all need to earn out of it. Yes, it needs to pay its dues. Yes, it needs to get somewhere. But there's all of that involved. But there has to be the passion for the sport driving it as opposed to the passion for the bottom line. If we don't go into motorsport with that, we're not going to grow it.
As I've always said, our biggest help and our biggest factor that makes it easy for us is that within our team, nobody derives any income from the motorcycling industry whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that really does help because we're not, there's no vested interest in trying to wangle a deal or do this or
make a cut out of that or back pocket this. Yeah,
absolutely. We don't have that.
And it doesn't work here, unfortunately.
No, it doesn't work
when we've seen it in the past.
No, it doesn't work here at all.
It does not work in South Africa. Anywhere else in the world, it works. It becomes a business.
Well, everywhere else in the world
Motorcycle championships in the world are businesses. They run as a business. They run as a profit-making entity. There's no doubt about it.
Which I'm sure is your goal with anything. I mean, it has to eventually do that.
It has to be. But what I'm saying is currently...
Actually not.
To get it up and running...
Actually not.
Yeah, to get it up and running...
No, it's not.
You've got to...
So let's just put...
Okay,
let's
cool.
just put that
Put that one to bed. Yeah, let's finish that point. Yeah.
No, not all. So MRSSA is an NPC. It's a non-profit company.
Organization.
Absolutely. We've never, ever to this day made money out of it. The idea has been whatever we're trying to do, whatever we've done, it's all as long as we can try and... Well, we've not always broken even. Again, there's a whole bunch of us that have put money in and funded things as we've gone along the way. That's pretty much how we've done it. So no, profit's never been the goal.
No,
not
it's not
at
the
all.
goal.
No.
Motorcycle racing is the goal.
Yes,
there it is.
Because we have the passion for
Get
the
the
sport.
bikes on
See,
track.
but there we go. What happens? So when that kitty grows, when the series does well and that kitty grows, that money doesn't go to the individuals. It then goes back into creating more opportunity for the riders, more opportunity for the sport.
Sure.
And that's what I talk about when I talk about profits. I don't talk about profits that you can take home and
100%.
put in your back pocket. That
As
has
long as
to
we're
be
clear on that.
That has to be our conversation that has to go out the window.
Absolutely.
The only way to make a small fortune out of motorsport at the moment is to start with a big one.
Absolutely.
So if there is money going into a kitty and it's going somewhere, like we heard from our Silver Cup compatriots that came in here, as long as that money goes back into the series and back in the sport, it's always going to go forward. It's always going to take a step forward.
It will.
So in terms of, we've spoken about how you got to start, where you got to, there has to be an end goal. And I think, there has to be a clear end goal for you guys. Otherwise, you wouldn't have got into this. What is that outlined end goal for South African motorcycles?
Yeah.
The clear end goal is really to get the numbers back and to find the riders, and there are riders, and to pull the youngsters through, that we can have a succession plan and move them from the 400 to the 600 to the 1,000 as they become of age. That's the plan, and to get the numbers back up to, we'd love to get them back up to 200. I don't think so. I'm not sure we have that many races left. But but there's no reason why we shouldn't be at least 100 competitors,
and why you can't create more
on a race day.
What the likes of those 6 or 7 riders that I mentioned that are on international stages now have done, does that help you out? Do you think those doors that have opened up, potential riders coming through, winning SA championships, have they now got the same abilities and the same opportunities now that those doors have opened with the likes of Brad and Stephen and Shares and them?
I think for the youngsters coming up, it's important. They have them as their role model. That's where they want to be. That's what they want to aspire to. So it most certainly does. It's, I suppose the only downside is cost money.
Yeah.
There's no simple solution for that.
Yeah, we'll just chat to Trevor and Sharon, and they'll tell us how much it costs. But
absolutely,
yeah,
100%.
It is that's where the bottom line comes in.
That's where the bottom line comes in.
That's where they've got to have that little bit of additional money to get them where they need to go.
They do indeed.
But I've always been a firm believer in Mick, and you might disagree with me. I know Carl is on a similar vein here in terms of when a South African champion is crowned and they then go international, that's when I feel South Africa needs to recognize them and Protea colours must come. If you go the other way around, where you've got a very fast rider, goes and does an international event, comes back, but he's never won a South African championship, does he really deserve that that Protea color jacket, and it's debatable. But in saying everything we've spoken about there, the international goal for youngsters in South African motorcycle racing, and that's talking from short circuit right the way through to the 1,000cc man that's going to be crowned at the end. It could be a lady too, because there are a couple of very fast ladies that could be in your championship if they see what you're doing. That SA number 1 plate has carried huge heritage, history, and oomph, weight when you go international.
100%.
You know?
It has indeed. That's the idea, and it's absolutely to get it back from that. Whether they go overseas without being a champion coming back, I don't know. You know, that's I suppose we can all have different feelings and opinions about that. Sure, it is a money game, without a doubt.
You've got a current 6-time back-to-back South African Superbike champion, who was our last champion before it all fell to pieces. He's currently involved in another series.
Sure.
Are there negotiations to possibly bring him across and see if he can maybe do both?
Let's see how that goes.
So you see, like,
you heard that first, eh? You heard that first.
See how that goes.
We're not going to put any stamp of approval on it yet, but yeah, we ummed and ahed there a little bit. Yeah, but Evil Knievel, that's right down your alley, bro.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah. But even so, there's not only Clint in that class.
No, there are loads of others.
7 or 8 riders that can run with him.
There's a whole bunch. Absolutely.
And the beauty about what you've done with SAES is you've opened that door.
We have indeed.
They can have a double championship. They can run ZX10s.
They can.
And they can bring that ZX10 they run on the day and be as competitive in the 1,000 class that you've got.
Nobody's stopping them. Not us.
That's what I like to hear. Yes, please.
Open book, open policy, open door.
Bring it.
Bring it, race it, love it.
Bring it, race it.
On that note, Mick, thank you so much for your time, buddy.
Thanks.
Thank you for doing what you've done. Please pass on our congrats as well to the whole team behind the scenes.
Will do.
Before you go, though, the one thing I do want you to let our listeners and viewers know is where can we get in touch? Where can we see you? What social media platforms are you using, etc., etc.?
So definitely on the SAES website is the running calendar of all the circuits that we're going to. On the MRSSA website, specifically on the bikes. Then there's the Instagram. Don't ask me. The book face. The book face and all that good stuff.
Mick's still on Twitter as opposed to on X.
Twitter? No, I'm not on Twitter.
I'm pretty sure if you look
not
on the right,
any of those
you
things.
might have a pager in his pocket as well.
He's on Top Book as well, as opposed to Tick Face. Listen, MRSSA they have got a very strong following on social media. If you just look it up, you'll find it there easily. And of course, check this on the bottom, yeah?
Thanks, Vuyo.
We've got Vuyo doing this like perfect now. mrssa.co.za. Yeah, anyway. But that's where you can find them. And of course, the championship runs with the South African Endurance Championship. So it's a very successful championship. And we wish you all the very best with
Thank you very much.
crowning SA number 1 again. Can't wait.
Fantastic. Neither can we. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Cool, guys. Take care then. Bye now.